Well, guys, today we're going to take a look at two different products that have just shown up on the Sparrows website. One of them is brand new, and that would be this Progressive kit you see on the left. And the other one is kind of a repackaging, because this is the Cutaway kit that came inside of the night school. And I guess enough of us sent emails to Sparrows saying, I don't want to buy the whole night school kit. I just want to buy one of those Cutaway locks. Well, now they've started selling them separately. We'll take a look at these, and I'll talk about some advantages to using these over standard commercial locks to learn security pins. Learning to pick locks. Well, that's what this is all about, this Progressive kit. One of the most difficult things in learning how to pick locks are you got to limit the number of variables. In other words, if you're trying to learn to pick locks and you pick up a 6-pin lock, you have no idea what's in it, and you just randomly start poking at the pins, yeah, you'll learn how to pick that lock, probably, eventually, but it's going to be a very steep learning curve for you because there are so many variables inside of that lock. You don't know what the pins are, you don't know anything about the binding sequence, you don't know how to tension, you don't know how to determine pin states, you don't know any of that stuff. If you take all those variables out and you use something that you'd find in a Progressive kit like this one, in this case we have 2 pins, and we can look at the key, we can see what the bitting is going to be, high, low, because we know only the first 2 chambers in this lock are pinned up. So we're going to learn how to tension it, enough tension so that it binds one of the pins, and not so much tension that it seizes both of them up or seizes the lock up. So just on this very rudimentary 2-pinner, you're going to be learning some lessons. You can learn to pick it clockwise, in which case your binding order might be pin 1 and then pin 2, and you can learn tension it in counterclockwise, in which case your binding order would be just the opposite. It's going to give you different feels and different sequences. So those are some of the things you'll learn on this one. Quite honestly, on the 2-pin lock, you're going to go through this guy pretty quickly, but you are going to learn something from it. Again, for beginners, when you move to the 3-pin lock, the first 3 chambers are pinned. You'll notice the pinning is now, or the bitting is now different. Your binding sequence will be different, your tensioning will be different, and the height to which you pick your pins also will be different. For you beginners, as you move through these, the only variable will be the number of pins. All of the other stuff, the way you hold this lock, the way you tension, all that other stuff is going to stay the same. So it allows you to focus on just those 3 pins. After you pick this, by the way, the number 3 with 3 pins is probably twice as hard as the 2-pinner. And then you go to pin 1 with 4 pins. Again, you've got different bitting on this guy, so you're going to be fighting that as you progress through all of these locks. And then, of course, you get to the big daddy here, 5 pins. And again, you're going to be fighting different bitting. 5 chambers are in here, but it goes a little bit further. There is a surprise inside of these that they really don't tell you on the website, and that's because these are standard Schlags. And in standard Schlags, normally you have easily removable tailpiece, which I'm trying to get off here real quick on camera. Take all this stuff out, drop it there, grab that key, and I'm going to show you the surprise. It disassembles just like any other Schlag, and there's your surprise. These are actually 6-pinners. So even after you learn how to pick all 5 of these, you can populate that last chamber with a pin from one of the other locks perhaps, and you can mix and match these to surprise yourself so you won't really know, you won't have a key to reference, and that would be the true challenge, trying to figure out how to pick that. So very cool. This kit of 4, not counting my follower here, of course, it's going to sell for, on the website, it's selling for $28 US. All right, the next thing we're going to take a look at, let's say you've progressed through all of these, even up to the 6-pin level. By now you've learned how to pick standard pins, and you've become very proficient at it. It's time to accelerate things. You want to learn something a little bit more advanced, and that might be security pins. Well, when you get to security pins, it might be nice to have a lock with a cutout, and that's what these are. These are training cutout locks to allow you to look inside. So as you're holding this, or as you have it mounted in your vise and you're putting your pick inside of there, you start to get different kinds of feedback from those security pins. You're going to start to get counter rotation, and you're going to start to feel clicking. Some of them are going to be springy, and some of them are going to be set. And if you're just doing it on random commercial locks, Again, you've got all those variables to deal with. Wouldn't it be nice to, when you get some kind of weird feedback, you can then look in there and see exactly what's happening with that pin inside of the lock when you get that feedback, and your learning curve would be greatly accelerated. I'd wish when I was learning how to pick locks, I'd been smart enough to try to get some kind of cutaway to teach me that very quickly. That's what these are for. So Sparrows makes these. This one comes oddly with, if you look closely in there, you can see standard pins. I don't know why you'd want standard pins, but what I will tell you is that these sell for, the ones with security pins, they're selling them for $22. The one with standard pins sells for about $20. So if you're going to be repinning these, you just want a windowed lock, this one sells for 20 bucks. So save a couple bucks and then you can repin it. Some of the others, you're going to get spool pins. Now notice that the spool pins are slightly different inside of there as well. On some of these, oops, let me grab a pen here. On some of these you have the thick part on the bottom, some of them you have the thick part on the top. Again, it's going to give you slightly different feedback, and spools will definitely give you a lot of feedback, and you're going to have to figure out exactly what the pin states are. Spools will talk to you, but it took me forever to figure it out without being able to reference a window. So very useful tool. And then finally, you get one with serrated pins. All these are, as I said, 22 bucks, and then the one with standard pins is around 20. These are identical to the other locks. They have 6 chambers. The only difference, of course, is they've taken that extra step and machined out the side of the lock housing, and also machined out the top of the Bible there, so we can see what's going on. All right, what I'm going to do to give you an idea of the advantages of these, I'm going to go ahead and take the spool because it's going to give the most dramatic feedback, I think. I'm going to clamp it up, and I'm going to try to focus the camera just on that window, so as I pick it, you can see exactly what's going on, and you can see why having a cutaway would really be a useful thing for people learning how to pick spool pins. All right, here we are zoomed in on the cutaway section of the 5-pin spool lock, all spools. The key is in it, so we're right at the shear line, and that's what we're shooting for, so we'll be able to turn that core. I'm going to go ahead and pull the key out, and you notice immediately they all offset. Now this, I'm going to try to not to knock anything over. I'm working at some pretty odd angles here, but the microphone literally is like right above the tip of my finger there. I'm trying not to bump it while still maintaining some tension here. I'm going to use top of the keyway, and then I'm just going to take, this is a Tron pick, but you can use a short hook or anything else. The keyway on these is pretty wide open. I like to go all the way to the rear of the lock and then apply tension. It doesn't matter, that's just my personal preference. So immediately I put it in there, I position the pick on the last pin, which is pin 5, and as I'm bouncing on him there, you can see that he's not resisting, it's springy. Tells me he does not need to be picked. I'm not going to mess with him. I'm going to move down the stack to pin 4. Now suddenly he's set. No springiness at all. That tells me he's probably a binder. So I'm going to apply some pressure with my pick while I release tension on the tensioner, and I got a little click. What you'll notice is I didn't have the pick perfect, and the tip of it pushed up pin number 5 to the overset position. If I didn't have the window, I wouldn't know that. But let's leave him. Let's just keep going. All right, so now I'm on pin 4. And as I put more pressure on him to get him picked to the shear line, you'll notice now pin 5 is popped down. Again, without realizing it, I've got him picked. All right, put the pick back in. 4, I just picked him. He's good. Move to 3. And as I put pressure on 3 now, he's not springy, except now I'm getting what's called counter rotation on my tensioner. That tells me he's a spool, and it also tells me that he's below the shear line. So I've got to release pressure on my tensioner and then push up. Well, now you'll notice, and again, if we didn't have the cutaway, we couldn't benefit from this. Everything's at the shear line except one guy. I've got a very deep fault set. In other words, faults as in fake. The tensioner started to turn as if the lock was open, and it turned quite a bit until it felt like everything was set. But of course, it's a fake or fault set. That's because it got hung up on the center of one of these spool pins. And in this case, you can see through the window, it's pin number 1. Well, we don't need to see it. We can go in there and feel around. And what will happen when we put our pick on that pin, whichever one it happens to be, and we give them some upward tension, we get some very serious counter rotation as the fat part of that spool tries to squeeze through that narrowed shear line. That will force our tensioner backwards to make the hole larger. And all we need to do is release our tension a little bit to allow that fat part of the spool to get through the shear line. Got to be careful though, because if we open it up too wide, these other four are going to fall down. So here we go, put our tensioner on him, release just enough, if I keep my pick on him, just enough to let him through that hole. Come on. And we get an open. Those are some of the benefits to having cutaways. Well, guys, I realize that was kind of the long road around to talk about the benefits of training locks, but sometimes it's easier to demonstrate than it is just to describe what a great learning tool these things can be. If you're just learning how to pick, you don't want to mess around with repinning and all that. 4 training locks pinned progressively for $28, I got to say, is pretty economical. You're not going to find commercial locks, 4 commercial locks that are going to teach you as much as these 4 for that kind of price. So I'd urge you, if you're learning, don't be stupid like I was and pick up 5 different master locks. You're going to learn the same lesson 5 different times. Instead, let's just shorten your learning curve and go with something like this. If you are intermediate or if you've progressed through these already and you want to move to advanced topics like security pins, again, I hope I've shown you what a benefit it can be to have a window that's going to show you exactly what's happening, what the pin states are, what exactly it is you're feeling from outside the lock. You can cheat. You can look in there and you can see exactly what's giving you that feedback. No other lock is going to give you that benefit. Again, for $22 each, and in fact, the standard one, this one is actually $2 cheaper. So it's quite a bargain to be able to get a cutaway for that kind of price. What I would do if you are on a very tight budget, another option is to grab this guy, $20. You can't beat it for a cutaway lock. It is a 6-pinner, so again, it doesn't get any better than that. And then grab yourself one of these. These are the Sparrows reload kits, and these are perfectly compatible. This is a Schlage keyway. All these are Schlage keys at different levels of complexity. The bitting is harder as you move from one to the next. There's also all kinds of repair parts, springs, and better yet, if I can put this down, it comes with a follower that'll allow you to take the tailpiece off just like I did, and it comes with a bag of security pins. So with this single lock, you'll have a cutaway, you'll have all the standard pins to learn on, and then after you learn those, you can pin this up with the security pins from this bag. So right around 30 or 35 bucks, you are totally in business with a really powerful training platform. Anyway, fellas, there you go. The progressive locks from Sparrows and also the 3 different cutaways that just came available on their website. If you'd like to win this, and by this I mean everything you see to include the repin or the reload kit, all you got to do, guys, is go to that website. In the middle of the web page is a huge purple button. Click it, register to win, and with a little bit of luck, next weekend your name will be drawn for all this free stuff. Appreciate your time. Stay safe. Stay legal.